chess fans. Welcome to another edition of Chess Chat, a program designed to give you, the viewer, a good understanding of the fascinating world of chess. I am George Marajanian, Program Director of the Wachusett Chess Club at Fitchburg State University. This club meets every Wednesday evening from 7 to 11 in room C-159 at the McKay Complex at the university. And with me today, once again, in the control room is our award-winning director, Darren Dame of Fitchburg. He's assisted by longtime Wachusett Chess Club member Brian Bigelow, also of Fitchburg. And assisting on audio, doing audio, is Rob Barbarian of Templeton. And behind the camera is longtime FATV intern, volunteer, Andy Hawthorne. And across from me is my trusty co-host, longtime colleague, and chess author, Dave Kuchar of Westminster. Hello, Dave.
Hi, George.
Dave, it's always a pleasure having you on Chess Chat. By the way, this is our 125th program.
Wow.
We're doing this month. And we are going to talk about one of these major events they're going to be held next year. 2018, there's two major chess events that are going to be held. But one of them is the World Chess Candidates Tournament.
Right.
Now, what do you know about this Candidates Tournament? You know that there are some...
It's eight of the top players in the world.
Okay.
And whoever finishes first, the one will challenge Magnus Carlsen.
Okay.
In November, I believe, in London.
Yes.
Yeah.
The World Championship is scheduled for London in November, right?
Yeah.
But the Candidates Tournament is going to be held in March 10th through the 28th of next year, 2018, in Berlin, Germany. Okay. So we're going to talk about this very important tournament. As you pointed out, the winner of that tournament is going to be the challenger for Magnus Carlsen, the reigning world champion of Norway.
Right.
Now, we have our director, Darren Dane, has photos of the participants, just about all of them. Maybe they may be missing one, but let's start with the first photo that Darren has. Okay, now who is this grandmaster?
Levon Aronian.
Levon Aronian of Armenia.
Right.
He's 35 years old, and he is actually, what's his ranking in the world?
Number two.
He's number two,
right
behind
after Magnus, right?
Right, Magnus Carlsen, number one. He is number two in the world rating-wise. Okay, let's go on to the next player in the Candidates Tournament. Now, this is Fabiano Caruana.
Right.
Now, he now plays for the United States.
Right.
He was born in the United States and then went back to Italy with his parents and then returned to the United States. He is one of the American players in the candidates. And how old is he? 25. Fabiano Caruana, 25, and he's ranked third, actually. Yeah, as far as rate, but their rankings can change daily.
Right, they're very close.
They're very close
together.
Let's go to the next player in the candidates. Is this another American player? This is
Wesley So.
Wesley So,
Yeah.
who was originally from the Philippines,
Yeah.
but he no longer plays under the Philippine flag. He plays under the U.S. flag, with the U.S. flag, yeah. And he is one of the top players in the world. I mean, Wesley So. All right, let's go on to the next photo we have. Oh, wait a minute. Do we have a former world champion here?
Yes,
Who
indeed.
Is this is
Vladimir Kramnik.
Vladimir Kramnik of Russia.
Right.
Yeah.
He's the one who beat Kasparov.
Right, and he's the oldest one in this candidate, so he's 42 years old.
Right.
Yeah, so he beat Garry Kasparov to become world champion.
Yep.
All right, so that's Kramnik. Let's go on to the next player. Now, this is a Chinese player, the top Chinese player, Ding Liren, who is 25 years old, and he is China's top player, and he qualified for this candidates tournament. Let's go on to the next player. Now, this is Alexander Grishuk of Russia, and he qualified. And how old is he? He's actually 34, I believe. Yes, he is 34 years old, and there's three Russians in this event. He's one of them. Kramnik is another one.
Oh,
and now let's go on to okay, this is Sergei Karyakin. Now, what did Sergei Karyakin do last year?
He lost to Magnus Carlsen
Yes.
last year.
He played a title match
Yeah.
against Magnus Carlsen and lost, and that's why he's
But did
back.
surprisingly well.
He
came
did well,
close.
yes. He
came
did
close.
Karyakin did very well, but he's back. He's seated in because of that, because he's the loser of that title match.
Yep.
Okay, so those are 7. I think we saw 7. The other player that we don't have a photo of is Shakhtyar Mamedyarov of Azerbaijan. He's another one. In his ranking in the world, I think he now has moved up maybe to number 3 or 4. He's either 3 or 4. It can change on a daily basis.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
All right. So, but Dave, what we're going to present to our viewers is a highly interesting game that was played by Levon Aronian
Yep.
versus Wesley So from the 2015 Singfield Cup in St. Louis.
Right.
I think it was played actually in the 4th round of that tournament.
Yep.
Okay. And we're going to present this because this is a longer than usual game. And Wesley So had white. How did he open the game against Levon Aronian?
D4.
All right, D4, very popular move.
Right.
Well, the only other popular move is naturally E4.
Right.
So Aronian responded with knight F6. So he develops the knight, stops white from playing another pawn in the center with E4. So Wesley So plays
C4 for his second move.
C4, okay. Now, here is what Aronian did. He played moved the pawn on E7 to E6, which of course opens up the diagonal for the dark squared bishop. So he plays E6.
Right.
Okay. Now what does white do?
So white plays knight to C3.
Okay. Now what is yes?
Gives him the possibility of, if he wanted, to push the pawn.
So it's preparing. So with the knight on C3, there is the threat of playing the pawn, the E pawn to E4.
Right.
Okay. Now with Aronian's move, third move, he plays bishop B4, which stops that.
Right.
With the bishop pinning that knight, white cannot carry out putting the E pawn on E4.
Right.
Okay. So now let's look at the board very carefully and tell our viewers what are the possibilities for white here. There's a number of alternatives. I mean, that can be played. In fact,
Yeah.
you know, we had this same position in last month's chess chat when we did a tribute to Grandmaster Bill Lombardi, who died.
Right.
And Bill Lombardi was black, and he faced this.
Right.
He faced the same thing. And his opponent was a German player by the name of Gruzel, Matthias Gruzel,
Right.
who played. What did Matthias Gruzel play?
I think you said he played Queen C2?
Right, which is the classic. Yes, this is the classical continuation, classical variation, Queen
Right,
C2.
so that if he takes, the queen takes, he doesn't have to double pawns, I guess.
But tell our viewers, show our viewers, what are the possibilities are besides Queen C2? What else
You
can
may
be
have to
played?
help me here. I mean,
Okay.
I guess you could play Queen B3
Oh,
as
yes.
a possibility.
Queen B3, attacking the bishop immediately.
Right.
In fact, Rudolf Spielmann, Viennese player, advocated this. That's known as the Spielmann variation. Anything else? How about, for example, E3? I think you told me that E3 has become the most commonly played move now, right?
Well, now, the move that was played is,
Yeah, we're going to show the move that's going to play.
but this is what's become the most.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes, sir.
So this, what was popular at one time, is been
Right.
replaced by F3.
F3 at the top levels.
At the top, and the
At
top
the top
levels.
levels, this has become the most popular move.
Well, let's play it, because
So-
that's what actually Wesley So played on his fourth move, F3. Now, what does that F3 do?
And F3 supports the possibility of pushing E4,
Okay.
but on the downside,
Yes.
the knight can't
de-
go to his normal square.
It's deprived of that
Right.
good developing square on F3,
So it's going to be harder for white to develop and castle,
right?
and we're going to see in this game that becomes a major factor.
All right. So in response to F3 by Wesley So, Aronian had a couple of choices. Well, he had at least a couple of choices. He could have played D5. That's very, very logical.
Yeah.
But he chose the other good alternative, which is C5. Plays the pawn C7 to C5, attacks the pawn on D4, threatening actually to take
Right.
and force the queen to retake.
Yeah.
But how does Wesley So respond to Aronian C5?
Wesley just pushes to D5.
Okay, so he advances. He doesn't want that pawn to be exchanged.
Right.
He just advances. And Aronian, on his fifth move, just castles.
Right.
So he just puts his king into safety here, safe place. All right.
So it's worth noting.
Yeah.
Aronion's already castled.
Right.
He's not even close to castling.
And look at the lead in development black
Right,
has here.
right.
Castle, 2 pieces developed,
Right.
and all white is developed is 1 knight.
Right, which is pinned.
Right.
Yeah.
But of course, white wants to carry out controlling the center.
Yeah.
Does he do that? Does he actually now carry out
He
his
does
plan?
that now. Now he plays e4.
All right. So now has control of that center
Right.
with the pawn pawn line there. Okay. So after e4, I'm sure that Aronian would find the advance of the pawn rather uncomfortable,
Right.
forcing the knight to retreat.
Right.
Instead, he plays d6 on his 6th move to stop the advance of
Right.
the e-pawn to e5.
Yep.
Okay. What does Wesley So do now?
So now he starts developing, gets his knight to
Right.
e2,
Right?
and he's probably,
Yes.
then
That-
moving it to here, getting the bishop out.
Right? That would make
Eventually.
sense. Developing the knight to g3, bring the bishop out, and then castle. I mean, all right, so after knight e2, here is what Aronian played. He plays a6. This is interesting. What is his plan? Well, does he have a threat? With a6, isn't he threatening to advance the b pawn to b7?
Yes, yep.
It looks good because of this pin.
Right.
Yeah, he can carry out that plan. However, what does Wesley So do now after a6?
Well, he directly tries to stop it by playing a4.
Right.
The main alternative here would be to just continue his development,
Yes. Right.
knight, then bishop. But so he's putting off his development to stop this.
Should he have done? Actually,
Probably,
should he have not
yeah. He probably
should have brought the knight to g3, brought the bishop out, maybe e2, also possibly d3, but castle. He
Right.
put the king in a castle position. Okay, but he played a4 to stop b5.
Right.
All right. So after a4, this is a very interesting move.
Right.
I think you have a story about this if you want to tell our viewers
Well-
what you found about bishop a5 by Aronian.
Right. When we talked about this yesterday,
Yes.
we had both thought, why in the world is he doing
Yes,
this?
we were.
It looks sort of nonsensical, right?
We were puzzled by this
Right.
retreat. Because why retreat the bishop? It's not under attack. It's
Right.
not threatened. But we find out that actually Levon Aronian, who was very friendly with Grandmaster Peter Leko of Hungary, Peter Leko actually was the one that came up with this idea
Right.
of bringing the bishop back so that we can carry out the threat of b5,
Right.
which we couldn't do
Because with the bishop there,
with the bishop there. We can't be advancing there
right,
because
if
of
he
this.
if he takes,
We can't take
he
back
couldn't
because
take back because of that.
the rook
pin.
would be lost. Yeah.
Right.
So this is a rather interesting
So by doing this,
idea. Yes.
after the pawns are exchanged, the bishop is covering the rook, and
Now this has never been done before. Has this ever been played before?
no, this is the first
This is
time.
a novelty. This
Yep.
is a chess novelty.
Yep.
And Peter Leko, told Levon Aronian about this idea of his,
Yep.
and Aronian carried it out. Bishop a5. All right. So now what does White do? Wesley So 9th move. What does he do?
So he plays the bishop here to break this pin,
Okay. He does break the pin. Right.
and again, he could have moved the knight,
Yeah. Right.
and
Which was good. Would be a good move. Knight g3 is a very good move. All right. In response to that, Bishop d2 by So, Aronian now plays an exchange of pawns.
Yep.
E takes the pawn on d5. E takes d5. Okay,
Yep.
so he does that. All right. So wait a minute. Now White can recapture. I see at least 3 different ways here.
right.
What does So choose as the recapture? How does he recapture?
Captures with the pawn.
Yes, he doesn't take with the e pawn.
Right.
Because I don't think he wants to open up the e file.
Right.
Very dangerous.
Right, and he hasn't castled.
He hasn't
and-
castled yet.
Yeah.
So it's safer to take with the c pawn, which he did. C takes d5. Okay, now comes this move. This is move 10 by Aronian. He plays knight h5. What's the threat here? Is there a nasty threat? Well, I see. Yeah.
So at least, 2. You
Yeah.
can- right.
I see this one threat of bringing the queen h4
Queen,
check.
right.
Yeah. And that would be unpleasant. Yeah.
I guess the other possibility would be
Was
to
also
push,
f5.
push
Yes.
the pawn open,
Yes. That's also strong too. I see. Yeah, you're right. There are at least 2 strong moves here.
because White's problem here is he's not developed. He's
Yeah, right, and not, the
Not
king is
castled,
still
yeah.
not safe, being kept in the center. All right.
So, yeah, he has to worry
So,
here.
after knight h5, what So did was he didn't want this queen coming to h4
Right.
with check. He plays g3, doesn't he?
Right. So
Yeah.
again,
Yeah, that's right.
this is where his knight wanted to go.
Right.
He can't go there now.
Now he can't. He's deprived of that because he's stopping the queen h4 check.
So,
All right.
so now he's probably thinking, get the bishop here and then castle finally.
Right. Okay. So Aronian now, it's move 11. This knight on b8, he develops the d7. No doubt with the idea, I see this nice little e5 square.
Right.
A good square to hop to. And then possibly, if he ever jumped into here, he'd be mate.
Checkmate.
He'd be checkmate. If these pieces stay where they are,
Right.
be mate with the knight on d2. But anyways, the knight develops the d7, knight d7. What does white do here?
Now he plays bishop to g2.
Okay, bishop g2.
So now he can finally castle.
Oh, yeah. Now it looks like he's ready to castle, right?
Right.
Okay. Aronian now plays, his plan over here is b5. He advances the pawn to b5.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, now, what does white do here? He could just leave everything where it is. Doesn't have to do any exchanges here. Taking A takes the B pawn. A takes B5.
Right.
He's safe. He could castle. But did he castle? Did
He
white
didn't.
actually?
No, he did not castle.
After B5? Okay. Here is what did So do on move 13?
This is where he kicks the knight.
Yes, he's attacking the knight.
Yep.
Now, I know a number of players, if they saw that, they would just retreat the knight back to f6, where he came from. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
And there's also a possibility of actually going with the check here, but there's no problem because he can either play king f1 or he can also, no, he would probably just simply go king f1, and the king, there's nothing major here for black. But what Aronian did, he left that knight there
Right.
on h5, and he counterattacked on the queen flank with b4. The pawn to b4 attacks this knight on c3.
Yep.
All right. So what is white going to do here? The knight is attacked on c3. He can take the knight.
Could take, yeah.
That's take. So allowing black to take this knight,
Right.
because he can recapture with the pawn. Maybe he wants to hold on to his pieces, so maybe he recapture with the b pawn. But what does Wesley So do now on his 14th move? His knight is under attack,
Right.
and he chooses
Pulls
to
it back.
he chooses to retreat back to b1, the b1 square,
Right.
where he came from. Okay.
So now this rook is
Yes.
locked in.
The rook is locked in here.
This knight is kind of locked in.
It is.
Can't go here or here.
Okay. So now, after after the knight retreats to b1, now Aronian plays queen h4 check.
Right.
Now comes the check with the queen, and what Wesley So does, he just moves out of check by moving the king over to f1.
Right.
All right. So he's forfeited castling now.
Forfeited
By,
castling.
yes. Okay.
This rook is locked in. This rook
You're
is
right.
kind of locked in.
Exactly. Look at the pieces he's not using at all.
Right.
All right. So after king f1, here is where Aronian now plays on his 15th move, knight e5. He's coming in here. Okay, improving his position with that knight centralized. Okay. What does white do here?
Now he plays bishop e1.
Yes.
So he's attacking the queen.
So it's going to force that queen to
and
retreat.
Opening up that square for the knight.
Yes. So the queen's going to retreat now. All right.
Yep.
So the queen, Aronian brings the queen back to f6. Now, with the queen on f6, what is his threat now? Don't we? Well, wait. He could have actually retreated the knight. Well, no, he had to retreat
the
got a
queen.
dilemma. He had two pieces under attack.
Right.
The bishop was attacking the queen. The pawn on g4 is still attacking the knight.
Right.
So he retreats the queen and saves the queen naturally, but allows this knight to be taken. Now, does Wesley So take that knight
Wesley
now?
finally takes it.
He
Yeah.
finally takes the knight.
Yep.
So Aronian has actually sacrificed a piece here. It's a delayed sacrifice. He offered it earlier,
Yep.
and it was So did not take it. Instead, retreated the knight back to b1. All right, so now it's Aronian's move.
Right.
Aronian has given up his knight. So what are we doing here? Oh, well, he just simply takes the pawn on f3 with the knight. Knight takes f3. All right, so that pawn is gone, but he's given up a knight there. Okay.
Right.
So now, what does so do now? Remember, this is a nice.
Right.
This could be very uncomfortable having
Right,
this.
he's worried about what,
this-
you know,
the
the
discovered
the
check.
knight moving out and
Yes,
being in check.
a
so
discovered check could
discovered
be.
check, so he blocks a discovered check.
Okay, so the bishop f2 blocks that check. So what Aronian plays is bishop g4 on his 18th move, which brings the bishop into play now, and
Right.
that further adds defense of that knight on f3 with the bishop on g4 and the queen on f6. Okay, so what is so going to do now? The bishop. Okay, on the 19th move now. Now what is the threat? Doesn't black have a nasty threat here? As we look at this, isn't this threat? It's white's move, of course, but isn't it bringing the knight back here
Right.
with this here
Yep.
and threatening to win this knight with check? Remember, the bishop can't take it.
Right.
The
It's
knight
pinned.
cannot take it because the
pinned,
bishop would
right.
win the queen.
Right.
So and this knight cannot come to the aid of this knight going to c3 because of this pawn on,
Right.
on b4. So this has to be the threat of winning this piece outright, getting the
Yeah.
knight back with a nasty threat. I mean, nasty continuation. All right, so if that's the threat, bringing the knight back and threatening to win that knight, what does so do?
So puts his queen on c1.
All right, the queen is on c1.
So now if he goes here, at least this knight's no longer
At
pinned.
least the knight could take, right?
Right.
Now, does he do that? Yeah, actually he does.
That is what he does.
The
yeah.
Aronian does play knight d4 on
Right.
his 19th move, brings it back, because he now has a double attack on this knight,
Right.
threatening to win it. And so
Now
what?
since the knight's not pinned,
So he takes
he can take.
knight takes d4, okay? And of course, there's only one response here,
Yeah.
is the pawn on c5 takes the knight. C takes d4, okay? But look what we've done. Aronian, by doing this recapture, has now, we've opened up the c file, the very dangerous c file,
Right.
where that queen could now come under attack with a rook.
Right.
Okay, it is now white's move, though. All right, so what are we doing here? It is now white's move.
21st move.
21st move, okay,
e5.
e5. All right, so the pawn advances, of course, it attacks the queen, also is going to open up this diagonal on the rook, possibly. If we ever move this
Right.
pawn here,
Right.
it looks like it could be an attack on the rook. All right, here is what Aronian does after e5. He takes the pawn with
Right.
the pawn.
Yep.
He doesn't take it with the queen. He wants to maintain this pin
Right.
on this F file, so he takes D takes e5. That's his move.
Right.
Okay, so what is white going to do here? It's now the 22nd move coming up here.
Well, he develops his knight again.
Knight d2. Okay, now he gets that piece into play here. All right, now we're going to attack that queen. Aronian now takes the rook on a8 and brings it over to the c file to c8 and attacks the queen.
Right.
All right, now, where does that queen go? The queen has to retreat, has to find a hiding place.
Right.
And there's not too many hiding places here. He could go to e1, but that's awkward.
Yeah, because I guess if he goes to e1,
Yeah.
he
Oh,
could
yes.
push this and
we could push that. Or we could even
pin the
actually.
knight, right?
That's right.
That's
yeah.
one possibility.
That could be unpleasant, having it be in the pin. So he plays the queen to
B1.
B1. Okay. Now here is a move. When we went over this game earlier, we found this move extraordinary.
Yeah.
I mean, what Aronian did, he played the pawn on B4 to B3. Why would he do that? What is the plan of playing the pawn to B3? Well, it's actually to support.
There's a couple, right?
Yeah, there's actually a couple.
Right.
Yes, the bishop immediately attacks the
Attacks
knight.
the knight,
Okay, that's
yeah.
one threat.
Right.
Another threat is to bring the rook down
Right.
to the C2 and have the rook on this rank, especially if the knight were to move suddenly.
Yeah.
We'd have a mate here with the queen and the rook on this. So, but this is a great move.
Right.
This is a fantastic.
If he can bring that rook in,
If
it's
he can
probably
bring,
over.
if he can bring this rook down here to this rank with the attack, but he has to save the knight.
Right,
So the knight is
right.
under attack.
Right.
So what So did was take the knight and take the pawn on
Takes
b3.
it.
Knight takes b3. Okay, so now that rook cannot come down to this second rank here.
Yep.
But here is the maneuver which we really like,
Yeah.
is the bishop. Now the bishop's under attack by the knight, but the bishop simply goes over to b6 and gets on this diagonal.
Right.
Yeah. And this could be very nasty
Right.
if this pawn would be pushed
Right. He's threatening
with,
checkmate.
with threatening checkmate, right,
Right.
with the queen and the bishop, the checkmate on f2. All right, so what does So do? After bishop b6, he doesn't like this bishop here, but of course,
Yeah.
does this actually help in any way, what So does?
I don't think so.
No, because all Aronian does is, hey, I'm just going to retreat to a7, bishop a7, and I'm going to still maintain this bishop
Right.
on this very nice diagonal. All right, so it's now So's move. Bishop a7 was played by Aronian. I'm sure So figures, hey, I don't want to be pinned like this.
Right.
This is very uncomfortable having this bishop not unable to move, so he plays
Plays.
King G1. Okay, so now there's no pin on the king, but now here's where Aronian comes over with bishop f5 and attacks the queen with bishop f5. All right, so now what are we doing? Wait, the queen either has to move or we have to block this attack on the queen.
Right.
Now, I think we actually got an opinion from the computer. Right?
Yeah, I mean the computer.
The computer says let's remaneuver this queen over here.
Queen e1. He's still in trouble, but
Yes,
this is
he's
probably the best he could do.
He was better off actually just remaneuver,
Right.
repositioning that queen over to e1. But he didn't do that.
No.
Now he plays a fatal move.
Yeah.
He blocks the check, which allows Aronian now to play queen g5 check. Okay, and the
Yeah.
king.
I'm thinking. Yeah, he missed. I think maybe he was missing that after this.
Yeah.
The next move. Maybe.
Right.
That's what he didn't see.
Right. He missed this move. The queen now comes to f4, which was played.
Yep.
That was actually the 28th move by Aronian, and So resigned. Now, why did So resign? Wait a minute. Why can't So just simply take the bishop, win another piece? I mean, win the bishop. What would happen if So had continued bishop takes f5? How would Aronian have punished that? Well, it would seem that he would win the game by just advancing
Right.
here.
I would think so.
Would that be good?
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah, or okay.
Because now with the bishop and the queen,
yeah,
here they're threatening mate.
we're threatening mate, and then actually, well, he'd have to come over here with this. He would. Oh yeah, and oh yes, look at this. He does this. What, for example, the queen would have to come over to defend like
Right,
this.
sure.
And now the rook just simply comes down, and this with the triple attack on this
Right.
bishop, this is over.
Yep.
This game is over. This would actually would lead to giving up the queen, or it's going to be mate, one or the
Right.
other. Yeah.
Yep.
So the game ended like here, right here in this position.
Yep.
Where queen b4, So resigned. He realized after 28 moves, this game was lost. He had no
Yep.
chance. So this was an exciting game. Again, played 2 years ago, Singfield Cup.
And Aronian went on to win this tournament.
Yes, he won the Singfield Cup in 2015.
So ended up in last place in this tournament.
Yeah.
And then the next year went on to win it.
Oh, yes, that's right. Okay. Now, again, these are two of the players in this candidates tournament that's coming up in March. We're presenting this to our viewers now because we want to tell them that we're going to report on this. You know, after this candidates tournament is played in March 2018, we'll do a chess chat. And who is the favorite? Is actually Aronian.
Aronian's the highest rated,
is
but
actually the highest rated among these candidates. So
not by a lot, though.
not by a lot. So anyways, Chess Chat viewers, we hope that you'll stick around for our next episodes of Chess Chat. I think what we're planning to do for next Chess Chat in January is possibly do a report on the Harry Nelson Pillsbury Memorial, which is going to be held in Marlborough, Massachusetts.
Okay.
So we hope our Chess Chat viewers stay tuned because we'll report on that very significant tournament in Massachusetts that's being played in Marlborough this
coming
month.
weekend, yeah.
This is coming up this weekend. So stay tuned. We'll see you next time on Chess Chat.